We are on the eve of spring training for the Toronto Blue Jays, as pitchers and catchers have all reported full squads are there for as long as they will be with the WBC happening in a couple of weeks. But it wasn't necessarily the start to spring training that the Blue Jays were hoping for, with nothing but bad news coming in the first couple of days. How do they respond? How should Toronto maybe pivot on this? Let's talk about what has been a bit of a start to the spring for the defending American League champions. So, not the start to the spring that we were hoping for the Toronto Blue Jays, as Anthony Santander is out until probably around the trade deadline. Bowden Francis is out for the season, and Shane Bieber is slowly ramping up after forearm fatigue. And I've joked about it on the radio out here a couple of times. After, Canada Day and the home run and the grand slam from Springer and all the great moments that we had throughout the postseason, obviously it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but still, there was a lot of momentum. And then you come into the offseason, and no, they don't get Bo or Tucker, but they get Cease, they get Okamoto, they're able to land Ponce, like they're able to do these things. You kind of forgot that bad things could happen to your baseball team, and that's what we got a big dose of in the spring. So it is a setback. Kind of break them down one by one. Santander, I think, is kind of the bigger one, because now, and yes, they make the move, and kind of shore up their lineup a little bit, but still, for the most part, this was a lineup that had a lot of best case scenario in it, and now you are replacing Bo Bichette, and you needed Santander to have that bounce back year. Now, the lineup does look a little bit lacking. Like, it feels like it is a bat away from being where you would want it to be. And having that news come down at this point in the offseason, where it's not the offseason anymore, it's spring training, to have that come down before you could really go out and fix it, or after you could really go out and fix it, is really unfortunate. So, I have in my notes here, we're not going to go too hard on it. Has delaying surgery ever really worked? Like, it'll extend some things, but it feels like it's not, oh, well, he could have had surgery, but he just kind of rehabbed out of it, and it's been 3 years, and it's been fine. I'm sure there are examples, but it feels like it tends to just be better to just try to get that over with, understanding that the Blue Jays, with Santander for the World Series and the playoffs, wanted him to be in there as much as they could, and it just didn't end up working. But after that, it felt like that this process could have been started a little bit earlier. So there is a frustration there, obviously. But in terms of the replacements now, again, you're hoping for a lot of best case scenario on this team, and that's never a spot where I love to be in. The pitching part of it now makes a little bit more sense why they were over aggressive in adding to the rotation with Cease, with not Yesavage, sorry, with Ponce, and still keeping Berríos around. It felt like they had extra guys, and it was like, okay, well, if Berríos is staying, how are they going to make all of this work? And again, a reminder, the Blue Jays needed over 10 starters to get through the season last year. Spencer Turnbull started a game for Toronto last year. So there's obviously a need for major league quality starting pitching depth, and you get smacked in the face with it right away, as Francis is gone for the year, and Bieber, it may not be as long of a timetable for him as maybe a lot of people thought it would be when that news initially came down. It sounds like he's not as far off, so you're still, I think, going to be okay there, but all of a sudden, that depth dwindles a little bit. And there's reports today that maybe Max Scherzer is back in the Blue Jays' plans here, and they're working towards somewhat of an agreement. I think Toronto, much like they were with the offense last season, mixing and matching, putting guys in different spots that maybe aren't as traditional, but still kind of working through a few of those things, I think they're going to do that now on the pitching side, where maybe not a platoon, but maybe you skip a Gausman one time through, and maybe you skip a Yesavage one time through, and a Ponce one time through, and Berríos, and now Scherzer's in this spot, and it's Lauer here, and it's that. Like, I think Toronto is going to be very creative, very protective of the arms that they have in the bullpen and in the starting rotation, because A, it's a long season, and B, how important all those guys can be come playoff time, but also, as you saw last year, every game is vital for this Blue Jays team, and so you don't want to force a guy out there for 5 innings, but then you don't have him for 2 months. Let these guys build into it. Let them be ready for a postseason push again for this Toronto team. So I think Toronto is going to be all right still pitching wise. The offense, I still think it'll be okay. I was looking out there like some people with, Castellanos, is that a fit? Defensively, it's absolutely not. And it does feel like there was a bit of a locker room thing there in Philadelphia toward the end that maybe wasn't ideal. Like, Starling Marte is still out there. If you can get the best part of a platoon, I guess you could maybe end up having that work out as well. But Toronto is, again, going to come into the season with an offense that on paper, it's a lot of guys that stepped up for you last season, but it is also, again, a lot of guys that didn't necessarily light the world on fire before last year, but they put themselves in a lot of good spots with platoons. They're going to have to do that again. They're going to have to work very hard to keep the offense going again here for the Blue Jays. The trade, of course, Jesus Sanchez for Joey Loperfido. Sanchez, there's a lot of underlying numbers that tell you that there could be something unlocked there. And so Toronto taking that chance. And Loperfido, I know a lot of people were kind of into him. 27 years old, strikes out a ton, and was bouncing between AAA and the majors. If it was going to happen, it wasn't going to happen here. So get something back for him. Yes, it's a bit more expensive, but it kind of fits a little bit more of what you're looking to do. It probably means Lucas starts the season on the bench. I don't love how outfield heavy that makes the bench, but because of the flexibility where Barger can come into the infield and play, where Clement can play all of the positions on the infield, Okamoto and Vladdy can flip-flop third and first. Apparently Okamoto can play some outfield as well. The Blue Jays have a little bit of flexibility there. So again, they're going to have to be very creative in putting everything together with this offense. I will say, the one wish list thing that I have is Stephen Kwan from the Guardians. They're trying him out in center field this year, apparently, as well. But, like, Sanchez maybe changes the math on this a little bit. But Kwan, I think, is still the perfect guy for this offense. Again, doesn't strike out a lot. Has a speed component that not a lot of players on this team have. And, you put him... Springer is probably going to want to stay as the leadoff guy, but you put Kwan as a leadoff man, Springer as a 2, Vladdy as a 3, or flip-flop Springer and Kwan if Springer is hell-bent on being the leadoff dude. What a perfect table setter that would be for Vlad Guerrero Jr. Now, the Guardians may not be thrilled to trade away one of the best hitters in baseball a year after winning the American League Central, but he is in the final year of a contract. He does have arbitration, but the extension talks apparently didn't really go the way that they all wanted him to. And this is like the 3rd year in a row that everyone's anticipating. No, now is going to be the year that Cleveland falls off. So that's still the one that is the fingers crossed wish list one for me from a Blue Jays perspective. But as it sits right now, again, not the best start that you wanted to the spring, but as it sits right now, this is still a team that should be competing for the American League East and for the American League pennant again, so we can get another one of these hats in 2026. It's going to take a lot of hard work, once again, from the lineup construction and everything like that to try to manufacture the best offense that this team possibly can. Where are you guys at? It was a little doom and gloom to start. Feels like optimism starting to round out a little bit now. Where are you guys at as we head into spring training? Let me know in the comments, or if you're listening to this in podcast form, hit me up on social media and we can talk about it there. Normally we do stream these live on a few different platforms over on Twitch, on Kick, and on YouTube. For Twitch and Kick, it is twitch.tv/primetimepk, kick.com/primetimepk, or youtube.com/@couchpotatodiary. Again, hoping to go live after the Canada game against the United States in men's Olympic hockey, but going live a lot as baseball season rapidly approaches and we get our MLB season previews going here in just a little bit.